All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick's Untitled Power. So I know there's been a lot of hype this weekend about the Chicago Pro, but I don't want you guys to forget there was also the Vancouver Pro this weekend, which was also an Olympia qualifier. So that's why all these shows are important, because the winner of all these shows we're going to see at the Mr. Olympia. So we cover these shows because they tell us who's going to be on the Olympia stage. So the lineup at the Vancouver Pro wasn't nearly as deep as the lineup at the Chicago Pro. There weren't a whole lot of big names there. There weren't a whole lot of impressive guys there. So I'll give you guys the top six here first. So in the first place spot, you have a guy named Lukas Osladil. So Lukas Osladil is a guy that does not have the prettiest physique. He's very blocky, in my opinion. He has a very blocky waist, and he has some kind of weird body parts and weird proportion. But that being said, this guy is very, very consistent. And the reason why he places high and wins shows is his conditioning is consistently just excellent. Excellent conditioning on this guy. So I think the main two reasons he won this show is, number one, again, the lineup really wasn't that deep. And number two, he was easily the best conditioned guy on that stage, albeit not a very pretty physique, but conditioning does win shows, and this is proof positive of that statement. So in second place, you have Alexis Rivera. In third place, you have Josh Wade. In fourth place, you have Ian Vayer, who, in my opinion, this guy is my favorite physique out of this lineup. So the first time I saw this guy on stage and really noticed him was at the Indy Pro. I was probably about 3 rows back from the front row of the stage. And when this guy came out, he was one of the guys that impressed me right off the bat. This guy has one of the most massive and impressive, most musculars from the front that I think I've ever seen. This guy's shoulders, he's got like bowling ball sized delts. This guy has a crazy amount of mass. And honestly, for as much muscle as he carries on his frame, his waist really isn't that big. He actually has a very tapered waist for a guy that packed on as much muscle as he has onto that frame. So I think Ian is very impressive. I would have liked to see him higher than fourth. I think he could have been pushing, a Josh Wade or an Alexis Rivera. Lukas Osladil, again, not the prettiest physique, but he was more conditioned than pretty much anybody else in that top six. So behind Ian, you had Victor Cano in sixth and Ronaldo Gary in that fifth place spot. So let's get back to Lukas Osladil for a minute. So I was talking to Johnny Styles, who was at the Vancouver Pro in person, and he told me that the conditioning on Lukas is something you really have to see in person, because for me, it doesn't really come across as well in the photos as I'm sure it did on stage in person. He obviously does look conditioned in the photos, but to me, there's nothing crazy or standout about the conditioning just looking at these pictures. Now, while I'm not a very big fan of the structure of his physique or the look of his physique, one of the things that I do appreciate about him is the fact that he does these crazy posing routines. He always does something very unique and very memorable, and he always makes an effort to emphasize his posing. He always does some crazy flexible stuff on stage. He, touches his toes, and he does this weird thing. I remember at the Arnold Classic, I was in the audience for that as well. During his posing routine at the Arnold in Columbus, Ohio, he did this weird thing with his glutes where he would roll the glute, the sinew of the glute, the fibers of the glute. He would start from the bottom and flex the fibers from the bottom to the top. It was something I've never seen before. It was one of the most, odd things I'd ever seen in a posing routine, but it was memorable. I think that's one of the reasons why this guy does stand out on stage. And again, with this not being really the deepest lineup, I pretty much knew that he was going to win after the prejudging video. I even said in my prejudging video from Vancouver that based on the way they constantly had Lukas in the middle, and they were moving other guys around to compare to Lukas, it looked like he was going to be the clear winner of that show, and that turned out to be the case. For those of you that can't tell or don't know who these guys are, Lukas is the guy in the green posing trunks. On the left-hand side of him, that is Josh Wade. On the right-hand side of him, that is Alexis Rivera. On the far right in the light blue posing trunks, that is Ian Vayer. And on the far left, that would be Ronaldo Gary. But personally, out of this lineup, my favorite physique out of all these guys, Ian Vayer. I guess the conditioning is what held him back, because honestly, I think from a physique standpoint, from a structure standpoint, from a just sheer muscle mass with a small waist in a weak lineup, this guy was one of my favorite physiques. So Ian Vayer, to me, was a standout of this show. Lukas Osladil gets the Olympia qualification and the win. So that is the recap of the Vancouver Pro. Please give this video a thumbs up if you've been enjoying the bodybuilding coverage. Thanks for watching this video. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.